What if the woman executed as World War I's most notorious spy was actually framed by a jealous lover who orchestrated her downfall out of revenge? This shocking possibility lies at the heart of the Mata Hari scandal, a story that intertwines romance, betrayal, and the brutal politics of war. Mata Hari, born Margaretha Geertruida Zell, was an exotic dancer and courtesan whose life became a whirlwind of intrigue, passion, and ultimately, tragedy. While her name is synonymous with espionage, few know that her downfall may have been orchestrated not by enemy agents, but by a spurned admirer seeking revenge. Let us delve into the scandal of Mata Hari, a tale where personal vendettas, wartime paranoia, and the allure of a captivating woman collide in a deadly game of power and deception. The birth of a legend, from Margaretha to Mata Hari. Margaretha Zell was born in 1876 in the Netherlands, but it was her transformation into Mata Hari that made her a legend. After a tumultuous marriage to a Dutch colonial officer, Rudolf MacLeod, who was abusive and controlling, Margaretha fled to Paris in 1903. There, she reinvented herself as Mata Hari, a Javanese princess and temple dancer. Her performances were a revelation. She danced in elaborate, revealing costumes, adorned in jeweled bras, translucent veils, and exotic headdresses. Her movements were hypnotic, her persona intoxicating. She claimed her dances were sacred rituals from the East, but in reality, they were a masterclass in captivating an audience, designed to mesmerize and enthrall. Mata Hari's allure was her currency, and she spent it lavishly. She became the companion of wealthy industrialists, high-ranking military officers, and influential politicians. Her admirers included Étienne Balsan, a French aviation pioneer, and Émile Étienne Guillemette, a wealthy industrialist who helped launch her career. She was not just a dancer, she was a courtesan, trading her companionship for financial security and social status. In a world where women had little power, Mata Hari used her charm and independence as a tool, bending men to her will. But this very power would eventually become her undoing. The romantic entanglements, allure as a tool of influence. Mata Hari's life was a whirlwind of romantic connections, each more scandalous than the last. She was unapologetic about her relationships, often juggling multiple admirers at once. Among her most notable companions was Captain Alfred Kiepert, a German cavalry officer whom she met in Berlin. Their relationship was passionate and public, drawing the attention of German intelligence. Later, she became involved with Jules Cambon, the French ambassador to Germany, a connection that further entangled her in the web of international politics. But it was her relationship with Captain Vadim Maslov, a young Russian pilot fighting for France, that would prove most fateful. Maslov was decades her junior, and their bond was both romantic and maternal. When Maslov was severely injured in combat, Mata Hari became desperate to secure his safety. This desperation led her to accept an offer from Georges Ledoux, the head of French counterintelligence, to gather information on the Germans. Ledoux, however, was already suspicious of her loyalties, and her involvement with Maslov only deepened his mistrust. Mata Hari's allure, which had once been her greatest asset, now made her a target. In the eyes of French intelligence, her connections with military officers from both sides of the war made her a prime suspect for espionage. Her independence, once a source of power, became a liability. The espionage scandal, romance, lies, and betrayal. In 1916, Mata Hari was recruited by French intelligence to charm German officers and gather information. She accepted the assignment, seeing it as a way to secure funds and protect Maslov. However, her mission was doomed from the start. German intelligence had already intercepted communications suggesting that Mata Hari was working for them under the codename H-21. Whether these messages were genuine or fabricated remains unclear, but they provided the French with the evidence they needed to arrest her in February 1917. Mata Hari's trial was a spectacle of sensationalism and moral judgment. The prosecution painted her as a femme fatale who had used her charm to extract military secrets from her admirers. They presented her relationships as proof of her guilt, arguing that her allure was a weapon of espionage. Mata Hari, for her part, maintained her innocence, claiming that she had only pretended to cooperate with the Germans to gather information for France. But her defense was undermined by her reputation as a captivating figure and the pervasive misogyny of the time. The trial was less about espionage and more about morality. Mata Hari's independence and allure were on trial as much as her actions. She was condemned not just for her alleged crimes, but for her refusal to conform to societal expectations of female behavior. In the eyes of the court, her greatest sin was not spying, but being a woman who lived on her own terms in a world that feared and despised such autonomy. The execution, a symbolic sacrifice. On October 15, 1917, Mata Hari was executed by firing squad at Vincennes, outside Paris. She faced her death with the same defiance and allure that had defined her life. Dressed in a tailored suit and wearing her signature pearls, she refused a blindfold and blew a kiss to her executioners. Her death was as dramatic as her life, but it did little to resolve the questions surrounding her guilt or innocence. Many historians believe that Mata Hari was not a skilled spy but rather a scapegoat, sacrificed to satisfy public demand for wartime retribution. Her execution also served to distract from the failures of French military leadership, particularly during the disastrous Nivelle offensive. In the end, Mata Hari's greatest crime may have been her refusal to conform to the expectations of her time. She was a woman who dared to live on her own terms, and for that, she paid the ultimate price. The legacy, allure, power, and the femme fatale. Mata Hari's story has been immortalized in countless books, films, and plays, often romanticizing her as a tragic heroine or demonizing her as a treacherous seductress. Yet the truth is far more complex. She was a woman who used her charm and independence to navigate a world dominated by men, only to be destroyed by the very forces she sought to manipulate. Her name has become shorthand for the archetype of the femme fatale, but her life raises deeper questions about gender, power, and the price of notoriety. Mata Hari's scandal is a cautionary tale about the dangers of female autonomy in a patriarchal society. She was a woman who embraced her desires and used her allure as a tool of empowerment, but in the end, her independence became her downfall. Her story is a reminder that, for women, the line between power and peril is often perilously thin. In the end, Mata Hari's greatest legacy may be the questions she leaves behind. Was she a spy, a scapegoat, or simply a victim of her own ambition? The answer, like the woman herself, remains shrouded in mystery. But one thing is certain, Mata Hari's life and death continue to captivate and intrigue, a testament to the enduring power of allure, scandal, and the human desire to uncover the truth behind the legend. The shocking twist, a jealous lover's revenge? One of the most intriguing and little-known aspects of the Mata Hari scandal is the possibility that she was framed by a jealous lover. Among her many admirers was Georges Ledoux, the head of French counterintelligence who recruited her as a spy. Ledoux was known to be a calculating and ruthless figure, and some historians believe that he may have orchestrated her downfall after she rejected his advances. According to this theory, Ledoux used his position to fabricate evidence against Mata Hari, ensuring her arrest and execution as an act of personal revenge. This shocking twist adds a new layer of complexity to the Mata Hari scandal. If true, it suggests that her execution was not just a result of wartime paranoia, but also a deeply personal act of betrayal. It raises questions about the role of jealousy and power in her downfall, and highlights the dangers faced by women who dared to defy the expectations of their time.